This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Very important video here. The EPA is warning of cyber attacks on our water systems. Now, they're telling you this ahead of time because it is going to eventually occur. It's actually happening right now. They are poisoning our water. A lot of people already realize that. But now they're preparing you for an attack on our water, and they want to make sure when you realize that you can't get water out of your faucet anymore, who's responsible for it? And in fact, I just put up a video on my other channel, the Wake Up Call channel. If you're not subscribed, now is the time to subscribe. It's linked below because this channel is close to getting terminated. Most of you already know that because most of you have followed some of my channels. But I put up a video over there, what's going on over in the UK. They are telling citizens in the UK to stockpile food and water, that a catastrophic event is going to come. And of course, it's the same guilty parties, don't you know? It's the cyber attack from the boogeyman. It's someone with no motive whatsoever to turn off American civilians' water supply. Why would anybody even be that? I mean, what kind of psychopaths are we dealing with here? Just some guy in someone's basement? A bunch of guys who are cyber attackers? It's not about money. They want to turn off the water supply so they can commit mass genocide of civilians. No. The psychopaths lie from within. That is your own government. So the video over on the other channel, the Wake Up Call channel, go check out now. So this EPA story, the warning again is of cyber attacks, okay? I've shown you these clips many times. I'll start with showing you what they're airing on the news, okay? They're telling us of a cyber attack because they want all of these boogeymen built in place in your mind when it happens. That's why you hear the repetition and the pattern. They keep blaming boogeymen. Listen to these news clips and listen to them with built-in quote unquote, three big players. The three big players, who would do something like this to Americans? Who would shut off their water supply? Well, China, Russia, and Iran, you know, the new axis of evil, the new people who are going to be bringing about World War III. Of course, it's all of us working together as far as our governments go. Wherever you're listening to this, whatever government you're in, which isn't really in us, I say our governments, the ones who are supposed to represent us, are attacking us, right? But the new axis of evil is Russia, China, and Iran. And of course, that helicopter crash, which I covered over on the Wake Up Call channel, is very important as well, because that's the perfect catalyst to bring about another attack, what one side will claim is unprovoked and the other side will claim is provoked. And then, of course, the rest of us are supposed to side with these big militaries and these big governments instead of saying, why are we siding with these people? Why aren't we siding with the civilians and turning against these governments that all they want to do is take our tax money, piss it away? They want to go kill people. Why don't we turn on them? Why don't we stop funding them too? Well, you can't think like that. That's terroristic thinking these days. So listen to the security warning on the U.S. water systems. It's coming.
This morning, the Environmental Protection Agency is out with a new warning about the safety of our drinking water. The EPA issuing an urgent alert over heightened cybersecurity threats to the nation's water utilities, especially in small communities. NBC's Ryan Nobles is following this one for us. So, Ryan, good morning to you. First of all, how significant of a warning is this?
Yeah, Craig, good morning. It is a very concerning one. The agency says that more than 70% of the water systems they inspected do not comply with requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act and violate standards designed to prevent breaches or intrusions. Some have critical cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and they say that these threats and attacks have been increasing in number and severity. And it is an especially big problem for small town water systems, which present an inviting opportunity for bad actors to attack weakly protected infrastructure. Now, systems in bigger cities tend to have more robust cyber protection systems, and the EPA says that it also plans to step up inspections nationwide and is recommending a variety of security measures, including changing default passwords, developing risk assessment plans, and setting up backup systems. Craig?
Ryan, 70% significant. Any idea at this point who might be behind these cyber attacks?
Yeah, the EPA has identified China, Russia, and Iran as the main culprits trying to disable critical infrastructure, including water systems, and it's happened quite frequently.
As we reported Monday, the Environmental Protection Agency warned that cyber attacks against water utilities are becoming more frequent and more damaging nationwide. The agency is now urging systems to take immediate actions to protect the nation's drinking water. But officials said about 70% of utilities inspected by the EPA over the past year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions. CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skanga has been looking into this story and joins me now for more. Nicole, it's good to be with you. How do these malicious actors target water plants, and why are water plants vulnerable?
Yeah, here's the big question. Why are hackers going after U.S. drinking water? And what is the actual threat here that we're talking about? Cybersecurity. The EPA has an answer, and it's something that cybersecurity experts have been screaming about for years. Now, because water utilities rely on computer software to remotely operate treatment plants and processing and distribution centers, IT protection is actually really key to water utilities, and cyber hygiene is really important. So the EPA right now is shouting at water utilities who have been falling short in big ways, failing to change default passwords, not cutting off access to the system for former employees. And that has real life implications. Interruptions to water treatment and storage, damage to pumps and valves. We've seen that, something we have not seen, but is a big concern. The alteration of chemical levels in water. And just to give you a sense of how under-resourced water utilities are, the American Water Works Association report this year says roughly 1 in 5 small water utilities say they have low to no ability to advance cybersecurity.
So who might be behind this? And is the objective to, or maybe it ranges, is the objective to poison everybody or just create mayhem and chaos while maybe their other branch is off creating some other chaos somewhere else?
Strong emphasis on mayhem and chaos, and I'm glad that you brought it up. 3 big players in this field: China, Iran, and Russia. And earlier this month, the nation's top cybersecurity agency, CISA, called on pro-Russian hacktivists to stop targeting technology safeguarding water systems as a result of U.S. aid to Ukraine. So politically driven, right? Also, late last year, you might have heard of the Cyber Avengers. They're an Iranian-linked group that targeted a water utility in Pennsylvania. They were going after Israeli technology at that utility as a response to the Israel-Hamas war. You've also probably heard of Volt Typhoon. FBI Director Christopher Wray always talks about the FBI's moves to take that Chinese-linked group down, and they have been living within U.S. critical infrastructure.
So again, very eerie that this story's happening while over in the UK, they're telling you to stockpile. And I say eerie not because I'm scared. It's eerie because people out there aren't paying attention. In fact, people out there still call all of us nuts. They called us nuts like I've been mentioning all the time. They called us nuts when we predicted that planned event in, Event 201 was going to happen. And then it happened. And then everybody's lives were upended. We all told everyone it was going to happen, and we weren't looking for a pat on the back. We were looking for civilians to uprise against rogue organizations, ones that most people did find out were rogue, but still don't want to admit that they're actually just a bunch of tyrannical psychopaths because it doesn't fit well with their political party. So you got to stay in that communist political party ideology. So let's take a look at the story, right? The U.S. says cyber attacks against water supplies are rising and utilities need to do more to stop them. Well, when they say utilities need to do more to stop them, what do you think that they mean? Well, for starters, they're going to want to make sure that you have these smart water meters in place in your home for your benefit, because they won't be able to hack into your smart water meter, right? Only the government will be able to do that, who's essentially the same person. But they'll tell you that it might protect you if you get some of these smart water meters. They've been pushing this pretty hard. Of course, this is to control how much water you use every day, which again is like being a prisoner, just worse, because even in prisons, I mean, they get X amount of time for a shower. I'm sure you'll get less time in your own home because they'll be saying, well, you're lucky you're in your home, but unfortunately we weren't able to build enough cells, so we turned your home into a prison. So that'll likely be the solution for the utility companies to stop a potential cyber attack, is that they have control over your water system. And I warn everyone out there, do not give up any control anymore of anything you have. Do not give up your right to control your money. Right? How many people have gone to the bank and heard the bank ask you what you're withdrawing your money for? Have you? I have. What are you withdrawing your money for? They have the nerve to ask you what you're taking your money out for, right? They want to track you taking your money out. They're not comfortable with you taking out a certain amount of money, right? Stop letting them gain control over us. Everything digital is control for them. That I cannot emphasize enough. And what they're claiming is the cyber attacks against water utilities across the country are becoming more frequent and more severe. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, warned this week as it issued an enforcement alert urging water systems to take immediate actions to protect the nation's drinking water. About 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials over the last year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions, the agency said. Officials urged even small water systems to improve protections against hacks. Recent cyber attacks by groups affiliated with Russia and Iran have targeted smaller communities. So, groups affiliated with Russia and Iran. So, we're supposed to believe that there's just people in Iran and in Russia who want to go after civilians' water supply. Who would benefit from that over in Russia? Nobody, right? What are they just going to have a laugh? Are they trolling? That's the mindset that most of these sheeple have. Whenever we see these people guilty in plain sight, they go, oh, they're just trolling you, right? They're literally dressed up as devils in front of us. And they're just trolling conspiracy nuts, right? They get dressed as the Baphomet in front of us and they go, oh, they're just trolling, right? So the Russian, is the group affiliated with Russia or Iran, is their goal to do what? Can someone tell me? Because usually when there's a crime, there's a motive, right? So who has anything to gain? Well, your government has everything to gain, right? Because by controlling the food and the water, you become more compliant to the government. That's how it works, right? If your water is off and you don't have anything saved up and stored, and remember when you store these things up, don't tell people you have it stored up because they're not going to care that you were prepared and they weren't. They're going to care about getting their hands on your food because people will eat each other alive when they realize, which is going to take them a little bit of time to realize they can't live without water. It might take some of them a day to realize it because they're that dumb. They don't realize that we need food and water to live. And if someone was to shut it off, someone we're supposed to trust like our government, well, then we would be very, very willing to comply to get food and water, right? So more and more over the years, what we've seen is them close down farms, poison the Monsanto dirt, poison us from the sky, sun shield, right? Making it harder for farmers. Not hard, of course, for people to get Uber Eats. So most of these people don't realize it's happening because they're so used to getting fast food all the time, right? Even though it's not real food. They don't realize that either. But then, right? Then all of a sudden, when they can't get their Uber Eats and they realize that, you don't think that the government's going to be able to come in and say, hey, we got food and water down in one of our FEMA camps, okay? But in order to get into the FEMA camp, well, for starters, you're going to need a digital identity so we can make sure you're a citizen, we can track you, make sure you're, and on top of that, we're going to need to give you this this shot in your arm. Remember the one that you refused to get because you thought there was a conspiracy going on? Well, you were right about that. But now, even though you refused to get it because you thought there was a conspiracy, well, now you don't have a choice. You're going to die of starvation or you're going to take the shot and come inside and we'll give you food and water. Because, again, it's all about getting that thing inside of you that can edit you and edit what you are, right? Internet of Bodies. Remember, I can't go into more detail here, but I can on the website, and I do. So there's nothing to gain from any of these organizations that are, and I love how they don't even say the Russian government or the Iran's government. It's just mystery groups, right? Which they programmed us with over year after year after year, right? All these shows where we see these cyber attacks where guys are sitting around wearing anonymous masks or hoodies over their head. That's what's programmed into our mind. So that's what we automatically are supposed to think. And that's how mind control works. When we hear groups affiliated with Russia and Iran, that's what you're thinking of. Oh, wow. Just some guys that want to kill. Just some random people who just want to commit mass genocide. They don't gain anything financially over it. They don't gain anything at all over it, actually. But, they somehow are able to outsmart your own government's security measures, right? So these guys in a Russian basement are smarter than your NSA or all the cybersecurity, the military cybersecurity that we're supposed to have here in America, right? Well, conveniently, just like what happened in Israel where they got attacked in the night, with the best defense they literally have the best military in the world, somehow got attacked in the middle of the night. Nobody was suspicious about it, right? Oopsies, they said, right? How convenient. We'll get attacked and they'll go, oopsies. I guess they had good malware or spyware, whatever they call it, right? And they were able to get through the NSA. And then you go, well, what is our government doing? Well, your government is plotting how to commit sabotage because the government is hell-bent on changing what it is to be a human. Remember all these things that Klaus Schwab said about cyber attacks and changing what it is to be a human?
Global Security Outlook Report 2023. This is a result of research in collaboration with the forums communities and our partner Accenture, in which we've interviewed and sought input from over 300 executives globally. The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
But still, pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services. Our society as a whole would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Those are all things that are coming, and they're going to try and do it however they can. So since they have the ability to shut off the grid and do these things, they're going to do it. And they know that people will be compliant. So many of the people who were not compliant last time will be forced into compliance. Because trust me, you're going to look at the pros and cons if you're not prepared. And I know the people who listen to my channel are, okay? But the other people out there, there are some who aren't prepared, who might not have got the potion, that will take the potion just in order to have food and water, because there's probably no worse way to die other than starvation. I mean, you could think about dehydration, starvation. You want to put that up with like getting set on fire or something like that? Okay, that's fine. But I mean, that's, it's as bad as it gets, right? And until you're in that situation, you don't know how you'll respond. You could sit here and be like, I would never under any circumstance take the potion. Oh, okay. When you can't breathe, when you're in so much pain from starvation, something you've never probably experienced, you probably will. And you'll say, I'll take my chances. Because I've seen some people who got stuck with that thing who are still alive right now, but don't even realize that they're not really alive, right? So always remember motive. Who has to gain from it? The government's over the civilians. That's it. As simple as that. The Russian government doesn't gain crap over the US civilians, right? Chinese government doesn't gain anything over the American civilians. No, they don't. Who does? A government who's gone rogue, who's shown you they're rogue, both parties have shown you they're rogue, who are hell-bent on ruining our lives. And this is how they'll be able to do it. Shut off the water. Remember the old quote from Kissinger, he who controls the food controls the people, right? He who controls the food and the water controls the people. Very similar to that quote from from JFK and from Lyndon B. Johnson, where they talked about, well, whoever controls the weather controls the world. Both things happening at the same time. Same evil people control all of it, right? And they got all these boogeymen in place. So they say about 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials over the past year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions, the agency said. So, again, when do we hold these people accountable? As long as they can keep you distracted every day trying to figure out if men can have babies, they can continue to get away with this stuff, right? If they're going to tell us that 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials violated standards, then do something about it. What's our tax money going to? Oh, right, castrating kids. My bad. I wasn't thinking straight, right? So they say some water systems are falling short in basic ways, the alert said, including a failure to change default passwords or cut off system access to former employees, because water utilities often rely on computer software to operate treatment plants and disruption systems, protecting information technology and process controls and is crucial, according to the EPA. Okay, so they give you all this gibberish. Possible impacts of cyber attacks include interruptions to water treatment and storage, okay, damage to pumps and valves, and alteration of chemical levels to hazardous amounts. And they've been poisoning the water for a long time. Unless you're able to filter your own water, which a lot of us do, okay? If you have a filtration system in your home, good. But you know that they're still doing it in other ways, right? We know that they're dumping stuff from the sky that in fact is going into the ground and then getting into the well water. So you got to make sure really that you have really good systems in place. But all they really need to do is push a button that says OFF, right? And then say it was a cyber attack. And they don't need to give you a motive. Did you notice how they were just hell-bent on giving you the people responsible, but no motive? Because there isn't a logical motive for another government to attack civilians who couldn't care less about their existence. Unless, they're going to start playing into the whole, well, American citizens, the Democrats in America hate Russia, so Putin's going to do it. Well, these people will believe whatever they hear anyway, so they might actually spin it that way. At some point, when they do this, they're going to have to explain a motive. And it's going to be a ridiculous motive because nobody's that sick. They'll be like, well, there's been people in the past. There's been Stalin. There's been these serial killers that were created by the CIA, No. Nobody's as sick as this global government right now. No one is as sick as our world leaders right now. All of them, Republican, Democrat. We literally have a bunch of psychopaths, who are doing nothing but sabotage our way of life. And this is exactly the method that they're going to use. And they're telling you, much like the video I put up today over on the Wake Up Call channel, much like that video, I talked about this. Okay, it's very important that people understand. They're telling you ahead of time so that you can't blame them when it happens. In fact, when it happens, they want to make sure you don't blame them because there's more of us than them. So they want to make sure that when it goes down, you're not going to go, it's our own government. Our own government did it, which is why they want to make sure in every story out there that there's already a built-in purpose, built-in boogeyman, I call it. People responsible. They're already telling you ahead of time, not doing anything to prevent it. They're just going, oh yeah, what can we do about it, right? All the trillions of dollars of our tax money, what could they do to stop a cyber attack, right? As if we're supposed to believe that they couldn't stop a cyber attack. Oh, what did they were just over there and they had the entire United States grid and they were just trying to figure out what the password was. They're just sitting in the basement, they're typing in, they're like, Baphomet 2, no, Baphomet 666. Oh, 6666. Yes, we got it. We hacked into the system. Oh boy, we did it. And then we're supposed to believe that they're just sitting there guessing passwords and somehow are going to get our entire power grid or our entire water supply. Now, they'll do this in small portions. They won't do an entire country at once. Okay? They're going to do little areas so it's not overly suspicious, but they will. They will do it. And they're telling you that they're going to do it. Okay, and as you heard, the most catastrophic thing they could do is a fake simulated cyber attack. It's worse than the pandemic, much worse. Because without electricity, nobody knows how to function. And that's one of the reasons in the video I did on what they're doing in the UK. Again, go subscribe and watch that video. They tell you to have a radio. They're not telling you to have a radio because, you want to listen to music while your power's out. They're telling you so they could feed you the narrative while the power's out. And it's going to be a one-track vacuum. You won't be able to come here. Won't be able to go to other channels you listen to. It's a vacuum, okay? And that's going to be the government's narrative that they want you to hear. And they know that not everybody's going to have a transistor radio or battery-operated radio, but they know that the guy who does, everybody's going to go over there and listen. And if they don't, he's going to spread that propaganda to everyone around him. He tells a friend, and they tell a friend. And that's why it's always important for the government to tell you to have a radio ready. Okay? They never tell you why, and the reasons they do, sometimes if they ever do, is laughable, right? Find out when the storm's going to pass, right? Find out what's happening around you so you know where to go or it's a safe place to run to, right? Run to the FEMA camp, it'll say. That's what it'll tell you, seriously. But no, it's to feed you the propaganda. So when it's off, they'll say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, they'll play that old emergency sound and they'll tell you, there has been an attack from Russia. The president's going to speak, and then everyone will hear it, and they'll believe the propaganda, and they'll be angry at the wrong people, because it'll be your own government who shuts off your water supply. It'll be your own government who shuts off your food supply. It'll be your own government who shuts off your electricity and forces you to be more subservient to them. That's what this is about, nothing else. And if anything, when we talk about the cyber attack, because most people just don't grasp it, that will create a mass genocide. And a lot of people don't think that they're going to do it because of the grip they have on the minds of so many with technology, but it's only temporary. But it's not as temporary as they're telling you. It's not 3 days. It's a long-term one. 3 months is like 30 years for some people without electricity. Have you seen people with their power goes out during a snowstorm for 3 days? You would think that they just, that they were stranded in Antarctica. Well, they can't go there. Let's just say Alaska. Can't go down to Antarctica. I wonder why. They were stranded in Alaska for 3 days out in the middle of nowhere, freezing to death. And just, oh my gosh, they'd be so thankful when the government decides to give you electricity, food, and water again. But you're going to have to comply. They're going to force you into compliance. I thank everybody for being here. Remember, the cyber attack is the most dangerous form of genocide that they can use. More people will get wiped out with a grid shutdown, a cyber attack threat, than with any type of potion or anything else. It's very important that people know that. The majority of civilians cannot survive without electricity. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've got it all set. It's going to be a struggle for me too. It's going to be a struggle for all of us. Let's not play stupid here. Let's not pretend to ourselves that we've got it all figured out, even if we have food supply. You still go on the internet, you still see stuff, you still read stuff, you still listen to stuff. It'll affect everybody. So be mentally prepared just as much as you are with your supplies. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.